Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Legal Gym podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about something that happens to every entrepreneur at some point in their entrepreneurial journey, and that is what to do if and when, and really it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you get a copycat. So for the show notes for today's episode, which will include all of the links and resources for everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today, make sure you head on over to hawthornelaw.net/29. That's the number 29. All right, now let's go ahead and dive right in. Before we get into the amazing content for today's episode, I wanted to let you know about a new training that I'm working on. I'm going to be teaching my 4R framework to get your trademarks registered quickly and easily. In addition, I'll be sharing the top 3 mistakes that I see online entrepreneurs make that can sabotage their brand and even force them into bankruptcy. So if you want to sleep better at night knowing that your brand is protected, you definitely don't want to miss this training. Just head on over to hawthornelaw.net/trademark to get notified when the training is live. One more time, that's hawthornelaw.net/trademark. And don't forget, everyone who attends this training is going to get a free gift. So if you're an entrepreneur who is building a brand online, this is one training you don't want to miss. One more time, head on over to hawthornelaw.net/trademark to get signed up for the notification list today. All right, we've all been there. About 6 months ago, and it could have been a little longer. I don't really remember the exact timing, but at some point in the past year, I was on my website and I noticed that there was a track back or a ping back from another website that I didn't recognize. And normally what that means is it means that somebody is linked to one of your posts and that's a good thing, right? That's because they found that your post was helpful and so they wanted to link to it on their own website. And that's what those track back pings are typically all about. But in this case, what I noticed was it was coming from a website that when I went to that website, what I found was that they had basically copied and pasted an entire blog post of mine, one of my very well-performing blog posts. So, and they weren't exactly copying it, like it wasn't a direct copy, but they basically put it through an artificial intelligence generator to rewrite the post in a way that was very, very, very similar to the way I'd written it, but it wasn't exactly the same. So, but needless to say, I got angry. I was pissed, and then I got nervous because I was thinking, well, if they're doing this, are they also doing it on a bunch of other websites? Is this going to somehow tank my search engine rankings for my website, which honestly weren't that big anyway, but it was something that I was nervous about and very concerned that this could be bad for me and bad for my business. And so then I took a moment and I started to get level-headed about it, and I started to think through my options. And that's what I'm going to talk with you about here today. And then at the end of today's episode, I'll let you know what the ultimate outcome was for me with this copycat in particular and how I handled the situation. But let's start by just talking about big general terms. Copycats in general are not necessarily a bad thing for your business. Copycats mean that your business is growing. They mean that people are paying attention to what you're doing, and it means that somebody out there is finding value in what you're doing, and they believe that it's worthwhile. Because if it wasn't worthwhile and it wasn't valuable and it wasn't somehow helping other people, then nobody would be interested in copycatting your material. So if you think about it that way, copycats are actually a good thing because they are basically validating that you are on the right track with your business. So let's talk about kind of your options when something like this happens, and it's going to happen to everybody. So what I mean by everybody, I mean at some point in your entrepreneurial journey, it's very possible and in fact very likely that you are actually going to get a copycat that's stealing something from you, whether they're stealing your trademark or whether they're stealing your blog post the way this person was stealing mine, or if they're stealing content from one of your videos on YouTube, or maybe they're stealing a course that you put out there. I mean, whatever it is, a lead magnet, maybe sales copy, like there's all sorts of different things they could be stealing. And that kind of leads me to the first question, which is what is actually going on in this case? Like let's evaluate the infringement. Is this a simple mistake? Was this something where a robot caught onto your blog and stole some copy and put it onto another website? Did somebody take your entire course? Did somebody steal a book that you wrote? Like, what was the infringement and what was the level of infringing activity that happened. And that's the first step in your options, is figure out what was actually going on and what is the damage that it could potentially do to your business. Now, evaluating that damage is not always easy at the very outset because, depending on when you catch the infringement, this might have been something that was hurting your business over time. This might be an acute event that maybe is not going to have much damage at all to your business. This could be something that, you're looking at potentially having issues where you're no longer getting monetized the way you were. So you have to kind of evaluate what the level of infringement is and what the value of that infringement is in terms of lost revenue to your business. And then I would want to look at where is the infringement happening. So it's one thing if the infringement is just happening on your website, in terms of somebody stealing the content from your website, typically blog post content, and putting that material onto their own website. So that's one level of infringement. Something completely different would be if somebody is stealing content from your videos on YouTube and then putting it into their own videos on YouTube. And the reason I say that's different is because the way you're going to approach those issues is different. Alternatively, if somebody is stealing your products on Amazon, I've seen that happen with clients before, or even potentially stealing information that you put onto Facebook. So that's the next thing you need to look at, is where is the infringement occurring? And the reason why that is important is because there might be things that you can do directly on that platform to take down that infringing material without too much trouble. But it really depends on where the infringing material is. So that's the next thing. So then from there, you have to decide, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to approach this? Do I want to email them and ask them to take down the infringing material? That's one option. Do I want to hire a lawyer to send a cease and desist letter? That's, I would say, taking it up to another level. Or potentially, do you want to make a DMCA complaint with the hosting provider or the social media provider that is hosting that infringing material? And so the DMCA is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And what you can do with the DMCA, all these websites like YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, they all have a process where you can ask them to take down infringing material through a DMCA complaint. And if they don't take that material down, then there can be issues for them. And, potentially you could sue them in federal court. And they don't want that. These companies, they typically do not want to get into the business of allowing copyrighted material to be posted on their websites. This is one of the reasons why there was a huge push in the European Union recently to very much limit the scope of what people could post in terms of like GIFs and things like that from the European Union. So that is the next level. So are we going to email them? Are we going to hire a lawyer? Are we going to do a DMCA complaint? And then the next level will be actually filing a copyright infringement lawsuit. Now, copyright infringement lawsuits typically are going to cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars to prosecute. And then you have to weigh that versus what is the likelihood that you're actually going to get some damages from this person or this business, depending on the level of the infringement. So those are kind of the first four options you have. And then the fifth option is, I know you're going to be surprised by this, but it's actually to do nothing. The reason I say that is because every moment you spend worrying about somebody that is stealing material from you is time that you're not actually spending building your business. So I think it's important that you take some time to really decide whether it is worth it to you to let this person or this business keep you from reaching your dreams by sidetracking you and when they're stealing your content. And so back to my content. And back to my copycat, what did I do in my situation? Well, first I looked up the contact information for the business that put up the blog. And there was not a whole lot of real good information on this blogger through their website. It was kind of like one of these like stale generic websites that posted a lot of what appeared to be copycat content from a lot of other websites across the web. It wasn't just my website that was targeted. We just got targeted for that one blog post. And so I think I may have found like a contact form on the website. I can't remember. Regardless, I definitely found an email address for someone connected to that website. And I emailed them or I submitted something through their contact form and I waited a few days. I didn't get a response. I wasn't sure I was going to get a response, but I definitely did not get a response. So what I did is I ended up going to whois.com, and whois.com is a website where you can look up kind of the back end of a website, and you can see, who owns the website, who the DMCA, hosting provider is, and different things like that. And through that, I was able to figure out where I needed to file a DMCA takedown notice, and I figured out what the procedures were to do that. There was actually, I was able to find instructions online for this hosting provider on what to do if somebody was infringing on your material on their website. And I was able to file that DMCA takedown notice, and within, I would say, it was quick, 12 to 24 hours, the post was actually taken down. And so it wasn't a terribly complicated process, and it was fairly easy, but not every situation is going to be this clear-cut or easy. There could be situations where, okay, maybe that post came down, but within like a couple of days, another post could go up. And so at that point, you start to say, okay, well, how much time am I actually going to spend fighting with this person that's infringing on my intellectual property? What am I actually going to do about that? And you really need to weigh the pros and cons of taking action versus what this is actually doing to your stress level and ultimately to your business. Now, I will tell you also, I know people who have sold on Amazon where copycats just pop up. Like they take down one listing, and within like a day, another listing is up selling more copycat information. And so that can be like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole trying to get these people to take down that infringing information, because as soon as you get something down, something else pops right back up. And so it really is a matter of, figuring out, okay, how much time am I going to spend dealing with this, and how much money am I going to spend dealing with this, versus why don't I just focus on building my business? Because what is ultimately going to happen is these copycats are going to come, and eventually they're going to go away, because they're not in business to create their own business. They're stealing off of other people's businesses. And so once they realize that business is no longer profitable to them, or they just get tired, or they realize, okay, this is a stupid strategy because every day I have to put up a new listing, they might be just as exhausted as you are trying to take their listings down. So at some point, they're just going to go away. And so you have to decide whether it's important to continue fighting that battle or focusing on your business and building the business that you want to build and grow. And I'm not here to tell you what the right answer is. I mean, every situation is unique, but I would tell you, in my opinion, that a lot of times it's not going to be worth a stress level to continue fighting these battles that are just going to beat you down every single day, unless they're really costing you a lot of money in terms of revenue and potentially even ruining your brand. So these are all the more reasons why it's important to consider registering your copyrights at some point, and also to make sure that your trademarks are registered and protected with the USPTO. Because when you have that level of information, then those are the things that give you the ticket to get into federal court should you need that at some point in the future, and actually to really fight these battles in a way that's going to provide some meaningful relief to you. So I'm not saying everyone should go into federal court. I'm not saying that. But if you have these protections in place and you've got a business that's generating 6, 7, 8 figures a year, at that point it starts to maybe make sense to go ahead and file those lawsuits, because you don't want to be seen as a company that is letting people walk all over their intellectual property, but at the same time, you don't want to worry too much about this because it could detract you from building something amazing. If you are interested in learning more about how to legally claim the rights to your brand, then you're going to want to schedule a free branding strategy call with me. That's right. For a limited time, I'm offering a free strategy call to talk with me about the branding for your online business and how to make sure it is legally protected. So if you'd like to learn more, head on over to hawthornelaw.net/TM-video. Once again, that's hawthornelaw.net/TM-video. On that landing page, we have lots of great information about the process of protecting your brand so that you don't have to worry about getting a cease and desist letter or being forced to rebrand your business at a great expense. Once again, that website is hawthornelaw.net/TM-video, and I look forward to talking with you soon. All right, all you Legal Gym listeners, now that you know more about what to do if or when you get a copycat, you are ready to implement. Because if there's one thing we love to do over here at the Legal Gym, it's to take massive action. So if you haven't already, make sure you check out the show notes page for today's episode. You can get a rundown of all the links and resources that we talked about here today by visiting hawthornelaw.net/29. That's hawthornelaw.net/29. That's going to be the home base for all of your legal and business tools and resources to help you start, build, and of course, legally protect your online business. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.